Welcome to the Social Mission Revolution.
Each week we explore some of the greatest undertold stories of businesses and everyday people who are making their ultimate impact on the world through social mission. This is Social Mission Revolution,
and this is your host, Andrea Putting. Welcome to the Social Mission Revolution, and today I'm here with Anastasia Winona, and she's a founder of Make It Happen, which I'm really excited to hear about, all about what she does with that. She's also a keynote speaker on conscious leadership, so I'm sure she has a lot to share with us today. Welcome, Anastasia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Pleasure. And thank you for the work that you're doing and for the conversation that you're holding space for.
Thank you. So I'd love to start with the question that I always start with. If there was just one thing that you could fight for, what would that be?
Oh, Andrea, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't know if I have a definite answer just because there's so many things. But if there's just one thing, it would be humanity. Just us returning to that point of being humane and being able to respect and hold space for each other at the basis of that you're human and I'm human. Just that.
That is beautiful. And I think it is really as simple as that. We don't need some big, long thing. It's just being able to focus onto that simple thing of what is it that's speaking to you.
Yeah, that our differences makes us great. And if we can just be able to extend the grace and just see each other as human, then the world would be a better place.
Certainly would be. So I'd love for you to share with us about Make It Happen. And so what is Make It Happen?
Make It Happen is an NGO that I founded in 2015 out of a necessity. It is an organization that is based on creating awareness, educating, researching, and lobbying on child adoption and child advocacy in Kenya. However, we do fundraise here in Australia. So that's what Make It Happen is all about, really on child advocacy. And as I said, founded out of a need, because I remember in 2015, I attended the International Women's Day, and a room full of lawyers, and Rebecca, who is an Australian director, showed this film that's called I Am a Girl. And if any listener need to watch that, I Am a Girl, featuring 7 girls. Watching this, and I sat there thinking, you're preaching to the choir. So after the event, I approached her and I said, has this been shown to where it really need to be seen? And she said to me, they're using it to educate and stuff. I was going to Kenya. I was on a journey at that point for myself to adopt. And I remember having conversation with my friends and even family, people that I loved and were close to me, and talking about adoption, and the reaction was unreal. It's like, why would you want to buy a child? Who does that? Why can't you have your own child? All those negative connotations that people try to put with adoption. And I had thought, oh my God, we need to have a better conversation about adoption. So coupled with what I saw, I thought, I'm on a journey. I want to go to Kenya. I want to use a night where I'm going to feature this film and be able to showcase what's happening in the world in terms of a girl child. But at the same time, we can talk about how to create safe spaces for children. And in that journey, I remember just walking around planning for the event, and because the event was to feature the film and raise funds for a home that is in Kenya called a Home for Abandoned Children. And during this process, this woman I would constantly see sitting at this very same spot. 3 times I noted her with her children. They're out on the street begging, and she's sitting there. So that time was too much for me to bear. So I went to her and I said, it's a law in this country that every child needs to be in school. It's free primary education. What's not happening? And she said to me, just nothing, just like everybody had said to me, she'll give you no answer. And so I thought across to her was a police station. So I marched to the police station and I asked them the same question. I said, it's right in front of your eyes. It's law. What's happening? There was all this conversation that were excuses and the don't care attitude. And I thought, we need to do better. We need to do better. And that's how Make It Happen was formed.
Yes, so it's a real understanding of those importance for those children to have what they're entitled to, that simple life.
Yeah, a family, love, and protection. That's all I'm after, that every child deserves a childhood, deserves a family, and deserves love. Only that.
Yeah, so there's an interesting, if I take it back into your background, now, I'm always fascinated when people start these kind of foundations, how their background, how do they see their background relate to make it so important for you to have to found this foundation?
So look, I was raised in an amazing, amazing family, and I had my own family. And just imagining a child growing up without that I had was a nightmare to me. But also the fact that I had watched my maternal grandparent, my parent, raise children that they hadn't given birth to as their own and love them. And I thought one day I'd love to do this. That's where my journey with really wanting to adapt started. And I also had an incident when I was training. I'm trained as a nurse. When I was training, and I remember being in emergency as a student, and this little girl came in and they couldn't figure out what was happening with the baby. She was a baby. And everything had been tried, and finally the head of the department said, let's go to theatre. We'll take her to theatre. It was stomach problem. We'll open her up. We'll go in fishing, figure it out. And I remember just before the child went in, another like the head of the hospital came in and said to me, run a pregnancy test. And I thought, I was actually really upset and angry. And I'm like, how dare you? He said to me, I said, run a pregnancy test. So I went and I did, and it was positive. And for me, at 9 years, oh my God. So the conversation then after that followed about incest and stuff. And I remember just calling my mom in tears saying, how is this even possible? And she said to me, look, it happens. I'm like, what do you mean it happens? So this conversation that we've never had, let's have it. It's wrong. This was in Finland. I'm like, this is wrong. It shouldn't be happening. So I'm like, you mean it happens in our culture too? She said, yeah, there are bad people everywhere and people do evil things. But for me, that memory has stuck with me. And if there's anything I can do to change the life of a child, to never go through that and to be protected, because that's a child, I will do it.
Yeah, it's a horror. That's a real horror story, isn't it? That a 9-year-old child was pregnant. I mean, it should not happen. And I don't think anyone could see that and not be affected. So, yeah, it's really taken something that's completely foreign from your life and saying that this is something that you need to tackle straight on and make a difference in some way. So, yeah, make it happen.
Yeah. Andrea, to surprise you, not really to surprise you, but to the magnitude of the world that we live in. Now when I'm in the middle of this conversation and when I get to hear it, I get phone calls from back home, somebody saying, look, a 5-month-old child was raped. And I'm like just horrified I can't understand the mind of the person who does this. I don't know. And I want to be able to understand. I wish there's a hospital we can take them. But in the most cases, I just want to skin them alive.
Yeah.
Because I can't understand it. I'm like, that's a baby. I don't care what is going through your mind. Like, that is a baby.
Yes. And a baby needs to be loved and protected, not treated like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really hard story to deal with. When you hear those things happen in the world, I don't think anyone can turn off from them. When you hear them, that's just so wrong on so many levels.
But the danger is we normalize these conversations. We just see it sometimes as other people's issues, and it's really an issue with humanity.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that we all need to face. I mean, very difficult.
It is.
So what are some of the things that you're doing with Make It Happen?
So some of the things that, as I mentioned, amongst everything, when I stepped into the space of, particularly because the one place that we can keep the children safe is through adoption. I know there are children homes, and there are some amazing children's homes that I've seen out there, and one of them that I do support because I can see the work they do. But also I have stepped into spaces where I'm like, no human being should ever live like this. And people use the name of the children to then make the money and live the life that they want and not use the money where it's supposed to be used. It happens. And I urge everybody who's going to countries that are particularly affected, whether we're going to East Asia, or we're going to Africa, or wherever we're going, wherever we're going to step into the space that we are helping, that it is actually responsible. Wherever we're going to tourism, that we are actually responsible, just not money anywhere. So what am I doing with Make It Happen? For me, I want to see the end to the children homes. Children do not belong to institutions, and we know research has shown the negative effect that has afterward for the children. So if we can bring that to an end, how do we then come to the other side that these children need to be supported? We've seen foster care system here, which really has done more damage than it has done good. So again, it's not a system I'd like to introduce, but there's things that are happening in countries like Cambodia that I'm investigating at the moment that have shown when you put like even one mom with like 5 or 6 kids, and they know this is home, this is family, and support them like that, it's seeming to work. So it's one model that I'm trying to see, as well as we advocate for adoption. Adoption, particularly in Kenya, for me, I'd love to see money not being exchanged at any point. And so really wanting to drive the conversations with the government in terms of where do we go from here? What can we put in place to make sure that money is not exchanged? And so corruption doesn't come into place where a child's life is involved. Also, Kenya in 2004, they issued a moratorium on international adoption. And now I understand, and my stand right here is that Kenyans for Kenya, if Africans for Africa, if a child can be raised in the environment, in the culture that they come from, perfect. Because then there are things that when they're adopted in outside their culture that they miss, and that's their identity. But in saying that, we have one childhood. You're not coming back to redo it. So if that child can get support internationally and be raised as a child with love and within a family setting, so be it. So that's also another conversation we're trying to have as Make It Happen with the government in Kenya. But ideally in the next 5 years, I would like to see a center of excellence in child adoption, whereby we bring everything child adoption under one umbrella. And in that, we also do the advocacy, because the advocacy bit is also very key, because we cannot forget the trauma that these kids go through, whether they are 0 to 7 or more. Between 0 to 7, we have the time to be able to reshape and reform and really rebuild. After that, the work that is needed is enormous. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that bring in the adoption, because you hear of it from time to time about different situations with adoptions. And I've known people who have wanted to adopt and really struggled to get a child because, well, there aren't as many children available in Australia because of the support network that we have and our circumstances, but that not being able to connect with children overseas who really need that love. And
there's actually so many children in Australia in need. Our system also here need an overhaul. And I speak in the space of the organization called Adopt Change, and I love what they are doing, and they're driving the conversation hard because it's a system that needs to be checked. The way we do adoption in Australia is slightly different. It's an open adoption, which makes it, sometimes it does its pros and cons. And what I mean by open adoption is that both the parent, the adoptive parent and the birth parent are involved in the process, and that can have its own issues. But also the conversation here is to stop the fostering system and give children permanency. Yes. Because you have people who want to adopt and they're like, but then after 3 months, a child is taken. And the instability that we create in a child's life where you're constantly being moved and feeling like you're being abandoned. Again, then the psychological trauma is unreal. And so it's a system that is needing an overhaul, a check. I do know people who've said to me, I've always wanted to adopt and I've been told I can't adopt. One of them said to me, she went in, this was in Melbourne, we don't have a child that looks like you. She's a Black woman married to a white woman. Married to a white man. The issue of race comes in there, right? And that's a conversation I don't want to get into right now, but we have issues there. You know, I've got a friend of mine, she's a lawyer. She is from the Pacific Islands. Again, she's been told the same. So we're bringing the issue of race into the conversation. So, yeah.
So they're making this point that if a child doesn't look like you, it can't be raised by you.
When it's somebody colored adopting.
Yeah.
When it's the other way around, it's okay. And so
that doesn't make sense. It just so we're trying to hide the fact that the child's adopted.
In a colored family, really.
It's that's not acceptable on so many levels, and so I can see what you're saying is that it really does need an overhaul in a big way. And the foster system is there's some really good foster parents out there, and I do know some of them, but there's also the majority of cases it's not good.
It's not a good story for the child. Some people are in it because they'll get paid money, and it's just sad. You know what I mean? It's just sad.
Yeah, and children should not have to go through things like that. They should be allowed to grow up and play and feel safe and wanted and loved.
Safety, love, and just a family. It's all you need as a child.
Yes. I think of my own grandson and how much he flourishes because he knows that he has he doesn't even have to know anything different than he's got family around him who love him. And that's how it should be for every child.
Yeah, that's my mission. If that's accomplished, I'm in a happy world.
Yeah.
Just for every child that is born in this world.
You have a big task on your hands. I don't know how you're going to accomplish this task.
One child at a time. One child at a time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what can people do to help you on this task? Because I know that there's a lot of people around the world who would be agreeing with every word you say and go, we need to do something to improve this situation, make sure that children are loved and safe.
There are a few things. One of them is us having the right conversation. Let's normalize the conversation of adoption and not make it a stigma, and in the right structure. Like, it's okay to actually adopt a child, and they're not all these reasons and whatever, just simply loving a child and being able to offer that opportunity. If we start to normalize those conversations. Number two is adoption is not for everybody, but if you can, and you can open your heart and your doors, please do go and look for a child who's needing support and help and adopt, or even bring them for fostering in terms of permanency fostering, right? And number three, I think with every work that we try to do, it's the work which people can contact me if you feel, any field, whether you're a psychologist who'd want to get involved into the advocacy bit, whether you're somebody who does IT, who'd want to help us with the IT, whatever area of your specialty, just get to me and let's talk, because there's so much work that needs to be done. And obviously there's always the question of finance. Anybody who's wishing to donate to us at the moment, Make It Happen website is on the downside being repaired, but get in touch with me on my website and then I can tell you how you can connect with us.
So that was my next question of how can people get in touch with you. So what is your website?
My website is www.anastasiawainaina.com, and I'm going to spell that just because I know it's not the common name. So www.ANASTACIAWAINAINA.com. Yeah, that's the website.
So
and if you type Anastasia Wainaina, you'll find me and it will lead you to the website.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So if you had a piece of advice for anybody, somebody sitting there and they just got something burning up inside them, it might be something like you're doing it, but it might be something else where they see a need in the world, what advice would you give them?
For me, I say we all are created for greatness. We've got potential in us. All of us have got potential in us. We all don't have to be a Mother Teresa. We all don't have to be a Michelle Obama. Start where you can. Don't wait until this day where you're going to have this massive organization or where you're going to go and have to work for UN. Start in your community. Who's that woman who's elderly that you can go and shop for? Mm-hmm. Who is that person who's just needing a smile? The one thing that we do, we pass homeless people and just pass. And every time we do that, we dehumanize them. Just smile, say hello. Whatever the area it is that is like itching you, just start with something. Just even a smile, smiling at people and saying, good morning. Just start where you are. Your dream is your dream. It hasn't been given by somebody else. So don't wait until it's perfect and you have a business plan and you have all these things. Just start.
That is beautiful advice, and one that I often say too. If you just touch one person's life, that you are changing the world, because you don't know what the ripple effects of that can be. And each of us has this, we all have our different things, and for some people it's something big like you are doing, and for some people it is just those simple things in life, just that simple reaching out and touching one person's life, and that's what they're here to do. So it's really important for us to look at that and understand that whatever it is that we are called to do is what we are called to do as an individual, and that's perfect.
Yeah, I think there's so much power in that. Whether it is that you walk into an office and clean it so that when somebody else walks there, they say, I know Julius was here.
Yes.
Because you do the work and you do it from the heart.
Yes, and I think that's what the Social Mission Revolution is all about, just working from the heart and making it happen.
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Anastasia. I've really enjoyed talking to you. You've given a lot of food for thought for me and for listeners to just think about how we can make the world a better place for the vulnerable children in the world.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. I did enjoy the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's all I have time for today on the Social Mission Revolution. We'll be back again next week with another Social Mission Revolutionist. This has been the Social Mission Revolution with Andrea Putting. Join me again next week when we'll speak to another social mission revolutionist who will inspire you on your journey to making your ultimate impact on the world.